I'm Vinny and we've made some things. Let's make some more. This episode is brought to you by Squarespace. Squarespace can help you design a really professional looking website even if you've never done this before. So today we're going to be working on Samus's arm cannon from the Metroid series. Now this is a gun that has seen many iterations over the years since it came out in 1986. But I kind of like this look. It looks kind of retro and kind of futuristic at the same time. So that I guess amounts to classic in my mind. I think to keep this simple, we're going to use PVC pipe as a nice base. It looks like we've got a step-down flange at the end, so that'll be interesting. And maybe we'll just use some EVA foam for some of the other details on the outside cladding. So I went to the hardware store and found a length of PVC and also a reducer flange that fits right on top of the end. And as you can see, that matches up pretty closely, so yeah, we're done. Wrap it up. Judging by the picture, this is our basic shape. That's great. But I've also got a piece of dowel left over from making that guy, and I've cut this down to fit exactly inside the tube with just a little bit of interference. So with that handle hidden inside, that actually gives us a really good way to grip this. We'll cut this down to some length, obviously, but I got news for you. We're actually not making this for me. I figured it would be a lot easier to make it on a model, so I found one. I'd like to introduce you to my wife, Alyssa.
Hi.
If you could hold that, thank you. We actually built a Samus arm cannon years ago for Halloween. It was really crappy and made of duct tape. So now we're gonna make maybe a less crappy one out of PVC. So the important distances that we'll need to measure are how much do we need to cut the pipe down by, and also get a measurement from her elbow to the grip so that we know where to place that handle. So if this is your length of PVC, you just wanna chop it off and then you're good to go. So we're gonna get into some soldering and electronics now. If you don't have a soldering iron and you'd like to skip this next part completely, that's totally fine. You can actually install a flashlight into the cannon, and whenever you want it to glow, you just turn it on. But I'd like to integrate some kind of LED lighting onto the inside, and we're gonna wire in a button so that you can actually trigger it and make a little pew-pew action when you fire. So let's compare brightness of these two. That's the Bop It light, that's just batteries. And this one, I've stripped the wires and we can touch that right to a battery, and wow, that is a lot brighter. So I think this is the one that we want to go with. So we know that we're going to need to wire up this little 9-volt battery, and we're probably also going to want to add a diffusion screen for this. Now what I mean by diffusion is that we just need to scatter the light a little bit to give it a softer look. So to do that, I'm going to use this little plastic lid, which should be free whenever you buy a wonton soup, which I bet you're going to get this week anyway, right? So I know that we were touching the wires to the battery leads just to test, but that's kind of janky. So to make it a little bit nicer, I've got a 9-volt battery cover with 2 wires coming out of it. So I'm going to cut the connector off. We can now expose these leads and wire up our circuit. So we will make 3 solder connections wiring that switch onto the positive leg of the circuit. So I've got all of these wire leads just kind of tied off. Before we solder, just want to test it. Now the very nature of having this switch in the circuit means that it is normally not connected. But when we press the button, we get a light. I'm going to use the cutest vise ever to hold the wires. Wet that sponge a little bit. That's good, you don't need a lot. I want to make sure that when you do this, you're heating the wires with the soldering iron, and when the wires are hot enough, then touching the solder to them. You don't want to just put the solder directly on the iron. It'll just make a drippy mess. Those are our connections. Still works. We are in business. If I were really fancy, I would have put heat shrink a little ways back on the wires and then pulled it over to cover up the joint. But we're not that fancy, and I'm going to use electrical tape. So I cut a circle out of our plastic lid, and instead of using that diffusion screen right on the very front, to be more accurate to the character of the gun, it's actually offset a little bit down the barrel. So we're going to hot glue that onto the inside edge of the flange. One other part of this is going to be changing the color of the light coming out of this LED. Now, when we turn it on, it's kind of a warm white, but Samus's gun actually shoots out something closer to a yellow or an orange. So I picked up a lighting gel from my local film store. If you've got one near you, that's great, maybe a camera store, or you can even bum one off of your theater department if you're really nice. And what we want to do is just cover the top of this light with the gel. That will change the color coming out, and that looks pretty accurate to me. So I'm going to cut this out, tape it down, and we will put all of this together. I am now going to mount our newly gelled light onto a piece of cardboard. Alright, we're attached to cardboard, we've taped up our wires and our battery, we've got a self-contained lighting unit with a push button. The last thing I want to do before installing this into the barrel is figure out the distance that we need to place the light from the diffusion screen. And yeah, maybe something like maybe about an inch separation looks pretty good. With our dowel hose drilled, I'm going to tape down the button onto our handle, and then we can install this into the cannon. The idea is we're going to drop the handle down first, and then capture it from the sides by these two wood screws. It's kind of hard to see what's going on, but if you can look down the barrel, I've got the handle suspended by these two screws. We're going to tighten them up and then drop in the LED. All right, the folded piece of cardboard is holding this at exactly the right height we need. That puts the LED surface about an inch from the surface of the PVC. Now I'm going to hot glue in the corners of that cardboard, being really careful not to touch the light itself. I got an interlocking tile of EVA foam from the hardware store. You'll probably find it in the flooring department. You could also maybe steal it out of your kid's playroom. It's the same stuff. It's textured on one side, smooth on the other side. We're gonna use the smooth side for our outer details. So next I'm gonna lay out all of my shapes on here, cut them out with an X-Acto blade, and then I can attach them onto the barrel using either hot glue or spray foam, whatever feels better. So to wrap all of these pieces around the barrel, I'm actually going to use our trusty heat gun to help kind of soften it up and give it some curve suggestion before we go and hot glue it down there. This piece was by far the hardest, with the parallel lines and then freehanding the oval shapes. So the idea is to heat up the back of this, lay this down, and put a line of hot glue and then keep wrapping it till we get all the way around. And then putting on some of these extra bump out pieces onto the ends, and also this pointy key shaped thing that's gonna go right on top. These three strips, these are going to go up toward the step down flange, and they're gonna wrap and get spaced, something like that. We'll figure it out once we start heating it up. If the dried glue is wrecking your day, just cut it out. Sometimes the edges tend to peel up a little bit, so I've been using super glue to just get in there and nail down that last little bit of the edge. All right, I think I'm gonna use a little bit of lightweight spackle to just get in there, fill the cracks, and make it a little bit smoother in the transitions. All right, our spackle is dry. I've spared you from lots of boring sanding, although it is kind of therapeutic in its own way. But you know the drill, we're gonna prime next before we paint. I found this nice dusty green color that I'm gonna coat the whole body with, and we'll give it some little highlights with a very bright green and also a rust color. All right, getting into the finishing touches now. We're gonna put some yellow paint down into these parallel channels. It may take a couple of coats. You may need to come back and do some touch-ups with the green when it's all done, but that's the cool thing about paint. You just do it until it looks good. While the first coat of touch-ups are drying, I'm gonna glue the diffusion screen into the back end of the muzzle. All Alright, so we just put the tiniest ring of glue around the inside. Now our diffusion screen is in place. I'm gonna put this on. We'll give the whole thing a coat of gloss, and I think we're pretty much done. So that's our finished Samus arm cannon. I'm pretty happy with how this turned out, and I had a great time making it. We got to do some electronics, we learned about a new foam type, and now we can see how it looks on our model. So hey, what do you think?
This is awesome. All right, so how does this work? Let's see. That's so cool.
Well, we should go try it out for real.
All right, deal.
Get 'em! Blah, blah, chicka, blah!
So the next question is, when are you making the rest of the costume?
Maybe in another episode. But until then, I hope you go and make your own Samus arm cannon. Or you could follow these steps and make a Mega Man cannon too. That'd be pretty cool. But whatever you create, please take some pictures and send an email to DIYPropShop@break.com. We'd love to see your work. Until then, see you next time. Thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring this episode. For more information, click the link in the description. And don't forget to subscribe for more awesome builds.